everybody, and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Today we are going to be mapping out the top cryptos in the market, why we're moments away from our first major alt season of this bull run, and what it means for the entirety of the crypto markets as we're getting into 2025. I firmly believe that this year is going to be the biggest in all of our bull runs between institutions and retail adoption at the same time. I think that the upside potential will be much bigger than we've ever seen up to this point, and I wanted to break down some of the most prime charts in the market that are going to be explaining why we're about to be seeing so much upside very soon. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. And without further ado, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, coming over here and taking a look at Bitcoin to jump into this video, we're going to be taking a look at what Bitcoin has recently done. We're going to be looking at how the prior cycles have played out once Bitcoin's entered that new all-time high and what it means for alt season. The most important thing on this chart is determining when the altcoins are going to run, because we always know that in the final year of our bull market, altcoins outperform the most. We're really just following that same path and trajectory that all of the prior cycles have done up to this point. We can see that the main thing that we needed to see for the altcoins to really start running was Bitcoin to go into a new all-time high, and up to this point that has come true. Now, not only has Bitcoin made a new all-time high, but we've already ran all the way up to about $108,000, and we've pulled back and we're kind of just consolidating right here before we're about to go higher. These are the type of moves that are setting up for the altcoins, because once Bitcoin enters price discovery, it goes into a new all-time high for the first time. That's every single time where the altcoins start to really outperform in a big way, because we know that this has been the case every single one of our cycles. If we come over here and we pull up our Bitcoin dominance, we're going to be able to see that these two have a very important correlation, where every single time this chart tops, it's at the beginning of a major bull run. We can come all the way back to 2016 and see this. When this thing topped up here at about 97% dominance, it was right when Bitcoin started to make a new all-time high. So all the way back here in 2016, Bitcoin makes a new all-time high right here, and it's right at the moment where this starts to really drop the hardest. Now, 2017 was our biggest bull run for the altcoins, and it's because Bitcoin dominance was falling the most. It went from 97% all the way down to 35%. So it was a much bigger move for the altcoins. They had a lot more money rotating into those, and that was indicated by what we saw in that 2017 cycle. It was a very parabolic type of move. Now, in our last cycle, the altcoins followed something similar. It wasn't nearly as parabolic, right? In our last cycle, Bitcoin dominance was right here. We topped at 74%, and then we only came back down to about 40% before we bottomed. So the altcoins didn't have nearly the same amount of time. In fact, Bitcoin, when it made its new all-time high from 19K, it rallied all the way up to $42,000 before the altcoins really started to do anything. So Bitcoin doubled in price into price discovery before the altcoins ever started to run. And it was a little bit different from that first cycle in 2017, whereas when Bitcoin really started to make that new all-time high, we saw Bitcoin dominance dropping really massive. So in 2017, when Bitcoin made its first new all-time high, we saw altcoins actually outperform it. Now, in our last bull market, when Bitcoin made that new all-time high, we actually saw Bitcoin outperform the altcoins on that first big breakout. So now when we're talking about what is taking place today for Bitcoin cycle, we're really at that last moment of support for this chart before we start falling to a brand new all-time low, in my opinion. What we're looking at here, we've been holding this trend line, making higher highs and higher lows. Even just recently on this big rejection that we had, we came right back down, bounced off of this trending support, and we're currently sitting here back on it as well. But the question is Bitcoin going to finally sell off from this level and start that major correction back down? Because we know, historically speaking, if we're zooming out here, every time this chart tops, we always see our altcoins start to run. It was the case in 2017 here, it was the case in 2020 and 2021 here, and now that we've just been kind of accumulating, building this support, I do think that if the Bitcoin price is about to do the same thing once again, where we've already made a new all-time high, we've already doubled in price into price discovery, I do believe that we could be at that moment before this chart finally starts to top, and we're looking at this thing breaking down and then starting that massive correction lower. Keep in mind that Bitcoin could still outperform as it rallies up to about 115, 120K. It could still outperform on this next leg up, but in my opinion, once Bitcoin makes another new high back back above $108,000, I think that that's the moment where Ethereum, Solana, many of those other altcoins are going to start outperforming. We're looking at this thing being right at the verge of a breakdown, right? This thing's been holding support as Bitcoin's been rallying throughout this last couple years, but we've really just came back down, had this big sell-off, bounced off of it, and we're currently sitting on it as support for right now. So is this going to hold as support before we go for one more final high, or is this kind of a little bull trap before we break down and start that massive correction lower? I'm leaning towards this selling off, because if we're looking at the prior cycles, every single time Bitcoin enters that final year of its bull run, the last year of the cycle, it's right where the Bitcoin dominance drops and we see those altcoins rotate, right? If we're looking at the time frames for our last cycles, 2017 would have been the longest cycle for altcoins, and they rallied for about a year straight, 315 days. In the last cycle, it was similar, although from the very peak low, it was about 140 days. And then when we kind of bottomed here from chopping around, it was just basically a year. So we chopped around here for the last, 6 months of that cycle. Whereas in 2018, we just kind of consecutively made lower lows and lower highs. So both cycles have been about the same, where the correction period for Bitcoin dominance, where money rotates out of Bitcoin and goes into the altcoins, that's all taking place over the course of a year. Now in 2017, we were constantly making lower lows and lower highs. Whereas in our last bull market of 2020 and 2021, we kind of made that first big correction that took about 140 days. And then we just chopped around here for another 6 months. So it wasn't quite as parabolic. We didn't see the same price discovery as what we experienced in 2017. But when we're looking at this cycle today, I think that we have a very real potential where we could be experiencing something similar, where we've already made that 3-year bull market, right? That was indicated right over in here. When we're looking at how long this market uptrends, you're looking at 1,090 days. 3 years up, and then you have that 1 year down period. In that 1 year down is in the final year of the bull market, and the 1 year down is just where Bitcoin underperforms the altcoins and altcoins actually make their big runs, right? So when we're looking at where we're at today, the bottom of our cycle would have been right here at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. So we're already at that 1,092 day mark, right? If we're looking at where we're at right now, we're sitting at that 1,092 mark. The exact same amount of time from our last cycle, from the peak low of the 2018 bear market all the way to the point of this market actually peaking here before our last cycle started for the altcoins. It was the same amount of time, 1,085 days. And technically this isn't even right. Right there, 1,085 days. Both of these cycles are exactly the same. We have a 1 year bear market approximately, and then we have a 3-year bull market. The difference is I firmly believe that this cycle for Bitcoin dominance, it's going to break down. It's going to come all the way back down to this base support that we held here at the bottom of this cycle, all the way back down here at the peak low of the 2018 cycle. I think we're going to here, we're going to bounce, and we're going to make a new all-time low. And we're going to be breaking down from approximately 2,800 days, almost 3,000 days worth of an accumulation. This is lower lows and lower highs, right? This lower lows, lower highs all the way through. This is like a big descending triangle. So once this breaks down, I have a lot of confidence it's going to lead to our biggest altcoin season of all of our prior cycles. Not just this cycle, not just the last cycle, but every one of our prior bull markets for those altcoins. Because when we're looking at the Bitcoin dominance, we're really following the same path that we've always followed. The difference is we've maintained lower lows and lower highs, and this has just been one big consolidation. We have a downtrending resistance, we have a horizontal support, and I do think that this next cycle for the altcoins is going to be where we make a new all-time low past what we peaked at 2017 and 2018 at about 35% dominance. I think that we're going to, from this level that we're at about 60%, 57%, we'll sell off all the way back down to support at 39. We might chop around here and bounce back up to 45 to 50%, but I do believe that this will inevitably follow for one big capitulation, 2 new all-time lows. Bitcoin dominance will fall to new all-time lows as we see all of this retail money rotate back into altcoins, meme coins, AI, things like that. I do firmly believe that that's what the charts are telling us. And when we're looking at all of these factors, we got to keep in mind that this is really the prime situation for the altcoin market, right? Because every single cycle for the altcoins, we see Bitcoin lead the way. It always maintains higher highs and higher lows. It goes into price discovery, and the altcoins lag. And that's just the way that all of these cycles work. If we look at the last cycle, it did the same exact thing. Bitcoin made a new all-time high right here. So the altcoins were still 50% below their prior all-time highs as Bitcoin was entering price discovery. So all the altcoins had done, Bitcoin makes a new all-time high, and the altcoins virtually just broke out of their bear market bottom right here. That's where Bitcoin, or this is where the altcoins were when Bitcoin was entering price discovery. And it wasn't until Bitcoin peaked at about $42,000, which was about right over in this region. So altcoins were still way below their prior all-time highs in that last cycle when Bitcoin started to run into a new all-time high. Looking at where we're at today, Bitcoin's already made its run. It went from $50,000 all the way to $108,000. It's in price discovery, and these altcoins are once again still trending below their prior all-time highs. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing considering where we're at in the grand scheme of things. When we're zooming out and looking at the total altcoin market cap, we have about two different levels, right? We have the prior all-time high, very important level, but then when we started our bear market back down, we made our first lower high right here. That was the top of our lower high, and that's going to be our next resistance. If you guys notice, we're pretty much just consolidating in between the prior all-time high and the lower high of that beginning bear market. We've already retested the lower high as support. We're currently retesting that and bouncing, getting continuation, but we're still trending below resistance of that prior all-time high. I do firmly believe that even if this thing pulls back a little bit, we chop around, once we break out of that prior all-time high, that's where the altcoins are going to outperform. You know, Bitcoin can still outperform in the short term. Bitcoin can still kind of keep creeping up higher, making higher highs and higher lows. Maybe Bitcoin reaches 120, 130K before we're finally at that point where this altcoin total market cap enters price discovery. The thing that you guys need to be aware of is once that price discovery happens for the altcoins, the next part is going to happen very quickly, which is why really the altcoin accumulation takes place over the course of 3 years, right? Where the altcoins really aren't doing anything. But once Bitcoin enters price discovery for the first time in that cycle, you know, whether it's all the way back here in our last bull market or whether it's in here in 2017, we've had a couple different scenarios. 2017 altcoins outperformed Bitcoin on that first breakout, and it was really just straight up for the altcoins from that point on. In the last cycle, you know, Bitcoin ended up doubling from 20,000 all the way to 42,000 in one big move into new all-time highs, and the altcoins actually underperformed throughout that period. Where we're at right now, altcoins are right at resistance. They're on the potential of a breakdown for major support right here. And when we're looking at our current chart, Bitcoin's already kind of doubled into price discovery. So I do think that once Bitcoin makes this new high and we make that next leg up, we're going to start to see this chart break out much bigger. And once this altcoin total market cap reclaims those prior all-time highs, that's where we're going to see the upside potential of this cycle for the altcoins. It's going to take place over 2025. We just entered this new year, and I got nothing but confidence that based off of how the prior cycles have played out, we're really seeing a lot of the same similarities once again. We're at that final moment where we can kind of get our altcoin positions ready to go before we go into price discovery. Because in the same way it played out in the last cycle, right? Bitcoin was really outperforming, but then Bitcoin actually peaked at $42,000 right here. So the altcoins really didn't do anything as Bitcoin was making its big run into new all-time highs. But the second Bitcoin peaked and altcoins started to get that rotation, this is what happened to the altcoins shortly after that. So we got to be aware that the same thing is going to happen again. Bitcoin's going to be leading, it's going to be outperforming. Altcoins are going to be growing and getting ready for that outperformance, but it's really once Bitcoin finishes that first big breakout into price discovery, we're going to finally see liftoff in these altcoins, and it'll be similar to what we saw in that last bull market, in my opinion. So the big thing we need to be aware of is if we're about to experience that big rotation taking place, now's the last time where we really have to get accumulation into these different altcoins. Look at the top ones that are going to outperform. What are the best narratives that get invested into as we're at the forefront of this big rotation? Because I've got nothing but confidence that with what we've seen over the course of the last 2,800 days for this accumulation, what I should say, this looks like a type of bearish continuation pattern, a big descending triangle. Once this sells off and breaks down, I do firmly believe it leads us to our biggest altcoin season of all time, not just in 2017, but in all of history. And that's what we need to be ready for. 2025 is going to be the biggest year of our bull run. I've said it for the last 3 years, and I've maintained this belief. You know, we've been tracking the 4-year cycle, knowing that this is what happens to these altcoins. So now with us in that 2025 year, we just tipped over. You know, I'm expecting that this thing's going to break down. Bitcoin's going to rally up higher, and we're going to see probably the biggest amount of profit and life-changing wealth opportunities in the crypto markets this cycle than any of the prior ones. So we need to buckle down, get ready, get invested, because I'm telling you guys right now, this year is shaping up to be a life-changing event for anybody that's actually invested and ready to capitalize on what's coming. With that being said, guys, if you found any value in this video, please do me a favor. favor, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. If you guys want to be able to see anything I'm investing in over the course of the cycles, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up for my signals. Inside of the signals, you're going to be able to get access to all of the trades I'm taking, any NFT picks, literally anything I do with my money, even outside of crypto, I post it in the Discord. So if you guys want to be able to get access to that, links are in the description. With that being said, I love you guys, I respect you, and I'm looking forward to watching 2025 roll out, because I'm telling you guys, we're about to make a lot of money, and I'm really excited to watch you guys do the same thing. Many of you guys, this is your first cycle, and I just got nothing but confidence it's going to be a killer one to ride throughout this entire year. So with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.